"Can I wash the dishes in exchange for leftovers?" asks a hungry 7-year-old girl to the cold millionaire. What he does next will break your heart. Before the story begins, wherever you are on your journey, consider this as encouragement to keep going. If this resonates with you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more inspiration. The October wind cut through Emma's thin jacket as she pressed her small face against the glass of Thornton's. Inside, warmth glowed from crystal chandeliers, while waiters in crisp black uniforms carried silver trays laden with food that cost more than her mother made in a day when she had work. Emma's stomach growled. 7-year-old stomachs aren't diplomatic. "Just half an hour," her mother had promised before rushing off to the job interview. "Stay right here on this bench. Don't move." But the bench had grown cold, and the smells from the restaurant's kitchen vents had become too much to bear. Emma's fingers trembled as she pushed open the heavy glass door. The hostess, tall with perfectly styled hair, looked down with practiced disdain. "Can I help you?" "I need to see the owner," Emma said, her voice steadier than her knees. "Mr. Thornton doesn't see people without appointments," the woman replied, already turning away. Emma dodged around her, darting between tables of startled diners until she spotted him, a tall man in an expensive suit examining a wineglass under the light. She knew he was the owner from the way everyone watched him from the corners of their eyes. "Excuse me," she said, stopping 3 feet from him. "I'd like to wash your dishes in exchange for the food people don't eat." Maxwell Thornton turned slowly, one eyebrow raised. At 42, his face had hardened into permanent lines of calculation. He'd built Thornton's from nothing, turning it into Chicago's most exclusive dining experience through ruthless efficiency and an uncompromising vision. "Where are your parents?" he asked, his voice cool and measured. "My mom's at a job interview. We got evicted last week." Emma's blue eyes never wavered. "I'm very careful with dishes. I helped at home all the time." A waiter approached, looking nervous. "Sir, should I call security?" Max studied the girl. Her clothes were clean but worn, her blonde hair neatly braided despite everything. Something in her direct gaze unsettled him. "No," he decided. "Take her to Antonio in the kitchen." As Emma was led away, Max returned to his inspection, but found his concentration broken. Something about the girl's pragmatic offer had pierced the careful shield he'd built around himself. Children shouldn't make business propositions. They shouldn't have to. In the kitchen, chaos reigned as Chef Antonio Rossi orchestrated his culinary symphony. When Emma was presented to him, the Italian's bushy eyebrows shot up. "What is this? We don't have bambini in professional kitchens." "Mr. Thornton sent her," the waiter explained, already backing away. Antonio knelt to Emma's level. At 48, his face was lined from years of kitchen heat and stress, but his eyes remained kind. "What's your name, little one?" "Emma Sullivan. I'm 7.5. I want to wash dishes for food." Antonio's heart, softer than his employer's, melted instantly. Dishes are too heavy for little arms. "But perhaps you can help sort the silverware." As Emma was settled at a small table with a bin of utensils, Max appeared in the doorway. Something had drawn him here, some instinct he couldn't name. "Is she causing trouble?" he asked Antonio. "On the contrary, she works like she was born in a kitchen." Max watched as Emma methodically separated forks, knives, and spoons, her small hands moving with surprising efficiency. When she looked up and caught him watching, she didn't smile or flinch. She simply held his gaze with a seriousness no child should possess. "Where will you sleep tonight?" Max found himself asking. Emma looked down at the silverware. "Mom says we'll figure it out." Max turned to leave, then stopped. "When you finish, Antonio will fix you a plate. Your mother can have one too when she comes." As he walked away, Max didn't understand why his chest felt tight. He didn't see Emma's small smile, her first of the day, or the way Antonio patted her head with approval. Outside, the wind grew stronger. A storm was coming. Emma's mother arrived at Thornton's precisely 30 minutes after leaving her daughter, panic rising in her throat when she found the bench empty. Catherine Sullivan had lost many things over the past year, her teaching job, their apartment, her confidence, but the thought of losing Emma was unthinkable. She burst through the restaurant doors, her worn coat and desperate expression immediately marking her as out of place among the wealthy diners. "My daughter," she gasped to the startled hostess. 7 years old, blonde hair. "Mom!" Emma's voice called from across the dining room. Catherine turned to see Emma emerging from the kitchen area, carrying a small plate of food, followed by a tall man in an expensive suit whose face she recognized from magazine covers. Maxwell Thornton, restaurant mogul and notoriously ruthless businessman. "What's happening?" Catherine asked, looking between her daughter and the millionaire. "Your daughter offered to wash dishes in exchange for leftovers," Max said, his voice neutral, but his eyes assessing. "She's been helping in the kitchen instead." "Emma, you know you shouldn't have," Catherine began. "We needed food," Emma said simply, offering the plate, "and I made sure to be useful." Max watched the interaction with growing curiosity. The mother was clearly educated. Her speech and bearing revealed that much. But the desperation in her eyes told a different story. "The interview?" Emma asked. Catherine's face fell slightly. "They've already filled the position." "I need someone to review my books," Max said suddenly, surprising himself as much as Catherine. "My accountant has been making errors. It would be temporary work." Catherine straightened, professional dignity returning to her posture. "I was a mathematics teacher for 10 years before budget cuts. I'm good with numbers. Come tomorrow morning 9 a.m. Bring Emma if you need to." Max turned to leave, then added, "There's a meal for you as well," Antonio insisted. After they had gone, Max stood in his office staring out at the Chicago skyline. What had possessed him to offer Catherine work? Temporary accountants didn't just walk in off the street, yet something about their situation nagged at him. His own childhood had been comfortable, but cold. His parents had built a business empire through relentless work, leaving little time for family. When they died in a car accident 15 years ago, Max had inherited their fortune and their emotional detachment. A knock interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Claire Bennett, his restaurant manager, stepped in with the night's receipts. At 40, Claire had been with him since Thornton's opening 7 years ago. Her efficiency was unmatched, her loyalty supposedly unquestionable. "We had another discrepancy in the wine inventory," she reported. "Third time this month." Max frowned. "Have Johnny look into it tomorrow." "Johnny's taking a personal day tomorrow. Something about his mother being ill." "Again?" Max's frown deepened. Johnny Webb had been his accountant for 3 years, but lately his work had become sloppy, his absences frequent. "I can start reviewing the books myself," Claire offered. "No need. I've found someone to help, temporarily." Claire's eyebrows rose slightly. "Someone you trust with our finances?" "We'll see," Max replied noncommittally. Later that night, as Emma and Catherine huddled in their old car parked behind a grocery store, Emma pulled out a dinner roll she'd saved. "The chef said I could take it," she assured her mother. "He gave me extra food to bring to you too." "You shouldn't have gone into that restaurant, Emma," Catherine sighed, though she accepted the roll gratefully. "But thank you for thinking of me." "Mr. Thornton isn't as scary as he looks," Emma observed. "He pretends to be mean, but his eyes aren't." Catherine smiled despite everything. "When did you become such a good judge of character?" When you taught me about prime numbers," Emma replied, completely serious. "Some people are divisible, some aren't." In the darkness of their car, Catherine hugged her daughter close, wondering what tomorrow would bring at Thornton's, and whether Maxwell Thornton was indeed prime or composite. The first rays of dawn found Catherine and Emma in the restaurant's parking lot, far earlier than the requested 9 a.m. After a night of uncomfortable sleep in their car, they'd used the restroom of a nearby gas station to freshen up as best they could. "We're too early," Catherine said, checking her watch. "No one will be here for hours." "The chef will," Emma replied confidently. "He told me he starts at 5 a.m. to make the bread." Sure enough, a stocky figure was unlocking the back door. Antonio started in surprise when he spotted them, but his face quickly warmed. Ah, the little silverware sorter returns, and with her beautiful mother. Catherine blushed slightly. "I'm sorry we're so early. We had nowhere else to go." Antonio waved away her concerns. "Kitchen is always open to those who appreciate food. Come, come, coffee for Mama, hot chocolate for Bambina." The kitchen was already alive with preparations for the day. Antonio settled them at a small table in the corner, bringing Catherine strong coffee and Emma a mug of rich hot chocolate topped with fresh whipped cream. "Mr. Thornton doesn't come until later," Antonio explained, "but you help me now, yes? Emma can fold napkins, and you, Signora." "Catherine," she supplied. "Catherine," he repeated, savoring the name. "You can help count inventory. My English for writing is not so good." By the time Max arrived at 8:30, Catherine had reorganized the entire inventory system, creating a more efficient tracking method that Antonio praised enthusiastically. Emma, meanwhile, had not only folded napkins, but had also arranged them in an elaborate pattern that impressed even the other arriving staff. Max paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. He'd half expected them not to show, yet here they were, already working as if they belonged. "You're early," he observed. Catherine straightened, wiping her hands on a towel. "We wanted to make a good impression." "Consider me impressed," Max said, gesturing toward his office. "Shall we discuss the books?" His office was immaculate, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Chicago. Catherine tried not to show her awe as she settled into a chair across from his desk. "Emma can stay with Antonio, if that works for you," Max suggested. "She'll be good," Catherine assured him. "She's always been mature for her age." Max nodded, pulling out several thick ledgers and a laptop. "Our accounting software seems to be showing discrepancies with our physical inventory and cash receipts. It's been happening for months. Getting worse." Catherine nodded, already scanning the numbers. "May I?" she asked, reaching for the laptop. For the next hour, Max watched in amazement as Catherine moved through his financial records with remarkable speed and precision. Her brow furrowed in concentration, fingers flying across the keyboard as she cross-referenced digital records with paper ones. "Your system has vulnerabilities," she finally said, looking up. "Someone with administrator access has been creating phantom inventory adjustments, small enough to miss individually, but they add up." Max's expression darkened. "You found this in an hour?" Catherine shrugged. "Numbers have patterns. Deliberate errors do too." A commotion from the kitchen interrupted them. Max strode out of his office to find Emma standing on a step stool next to Antonio, carefully piping rosettes onto a row of pastries. "She has the touch," Antonio was saying proudly. "See how steady her hands are." Emma looked up, her face serious. "I'm being careful not to waste anything." Something twisted in Max's chest, a feeling he didn't recognize immediately. When was the last time he'd felt genuine admiration? "Catherine has identified some issues with our accounting," Max told Antonio. "I'd like her to continue investigating." "And the little one?" Antonio asked, nodding toward Emma. Before Max could answer, Claire Bennett walked in, stopping short at the sight of Emma perched next to the chef. "What is a child doing in our professional kitchen?" she demanded. "That's a health code violation." "She's with our new financial consultant," Max replied smoothly. "It's temporary." Claire's eyes narrowed as she assessed Catherine. "Johnny won't like someone else accessing his system." "Johnny isn't here," Max reminded her, "and given the discrepancies we're finding, Perhaps that's for the best. After Claire left, Catherine approached Max. We don't want to cause problems. You're solving them, Max countered. Can you continue tomorrow? I'll pay you consultant rates. Catherine hesitated, then squared her shoulders. We'll need a place to stay. We've been living in our car since the eviction. Max blinked, momentarily thrown by her directness. There's an apartment above the restaurant. It's small, meant for visiting chefs. You can use it temporarily. Thank you, Catherine said simply. That night, as Emma explored their temporary home, a modest but clean one-bedroom apartment with actual beds and a shower with hot water, Catherine watched her daughter's excitement with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. Don't get too comfortable, sweetheart, she cautioned. This is just until I finish the job. Emma looked at her mother with eyes too knowing for a 7-year-old. He needs more help than he knows, Mom, and so do we. Johnny Webb arrived at Thornton's the following day looking haggard. At 45, his once handsome face had grown puffy from too many late nights and too much whiskey. He straightened his tie nervously as he approached the hostess stand. Is Max in? He asked. In his office with the new financial consultant, the hostess replied. Johnny froze. What new consultant? Before she could answer, Johnny was already striding toward the back offices. He found Max's door ajar and pushed it open without knocking, then stopped short at the sight of Catherine Sullivan seated at his computer. What the hell is this? Johnny demanded. Max looked up calmly. Johnny, feeling better? How's your mother? Johnny shifted uncomfortably. She's better. Who is this? Catherine Sullivan. She's helping us identify some discrepancies in our books. That's my job, Johnny snapped. You can't just bring in some random woman. Mum's not random, said a small voice from the corner. Johnny turned to see Emma sitting quietly with a book. She graduated summa cum laude in mathematics from Northwestern. Johnny stared at the child, then back at Catherine. You brought your kid to work in a restaurant office. Emma stays with me, Catherine said firmly. Those were the terms. Max stepped forward. Catherine has already identified several systematic errors in our accounting. Errors you missed, Johnny. Johnny's face flushed. I've been overworked. If you'd hire a proper accounting staff instead of just me... That's exactly what I'm doing, Max interrupted. Catherine will continue reviewing our finances. You'll provide her with whatever she needs. After Johnny stormed out, Catherine turned to Max. He's definitely hiding something. Keep digging, Max instructed. I want to know exactly what he's been doing. Throughout the day, Emma alternated between helping Antonio in the kitchen and sitting quietly in Max's office while Catherine worked. Max found himself increasingly aware of the child's presence, her serious expressions, her thoughtful questions, the way she absorbed everything around her. At lunchtime, Antonio insisted on serving them a special meal in the private dining room. Max normally ate at his desk, but today he found himself joining them. This is the best pasta I've ever had, Emma told Antonio solemnly. The chef beamed. It is my nonna's recipe, passed down for generations. Did your nonna teach you to cook? Emma asked. See, from when I was small, like you. My grandma died before I was born, Emma said matter-of-factly. And I never met my dad. It's just been Mom and me. Catherine looked uncomfortable at this personal revelation, but Max found himself curious. Your father isn't in the picture? He asked Catherine. He left when I told him I was pregnant, Catherine replied, her tone making it clear the subject was closed. Max nodded, respecting her boundaries. His own parents had been physically present, but emotionally absent. Their family dinners had been silent, formal affairs where business calls always took precedence over conversation. As they ate, Max studied mother and daughter. Despite their circumstances, there was a warmth between them that he found both foreign and fascinating. Catherine caught him watching and raised an eyebrow questioningly. Sorry, he said. It's just, you seem close. "We're all each other has," Catherine replied simply. That afternoon, Claire cornered Max near the wine cellar. "Johnny says you've hired some homeless woman to audit his work," she said without preamble. "Is that wise?" "Catherine is qualified," Max replied, "and she's finding things Johnny missed." "Or things he didn't want found," Claire suggested. "Be careful, Max. Johnny's been acting strange lately, taking calls in private, working odd hours." "You think he's stealing from me?" Max asked bluntly. Claire shrugged. "I think everyone has secrets. Even you." Max thought about his sister Sarah, whom he hadn't spoken to in 14 years. About the night their parents died and the accusations she'd hurled at him, some secrets were better left buried. Later, as the restaurant prepared for dinner service, Max found Emma sitting at the bar, watching the bartender practice elaborate cocktail techniques. "Shouldn't you be with your mother?" Max asked. "She said I could explore as long as I didn't touch anything or get in the way," Emma replied. "I've been observing efficiency patterns in the restaurant workflow." Max blinked. "You've been what?" "Watching how everyone works together," Emma clarified. "There are bottlenecks. The expediter station gets crowded at peak times because it's too small." Max studied her with new interest. "What else have you noticed?" Emma's observations were startlingly accurate, issues that had plagued the restaurant for months, seen through the clear eyes of a child. Max found himself taking mental notes as she spoke. "How do you notice these things?" he finally asked. Emma shrugged. "Mum says I see patterns where others see chaos. It's why I'm good at math." "How good?" In response, Emma glanced at a nearby table's bill, then said, "Their total is wrong. The wine was 87 pevers, not 78 lows. They've been undercharged $9 plus tax." Max checked and found she was right. A cold feeling settled in his stomach as he considered the implications. If Johnny had been systematically undercharging certain items and pocketing the difference. That night, long after Emma and Catherine had gone up to their temporary apartment, Max sat alone in his office reviewing years of financial records. The restaurant was profitable, but not as profitable as it should be. Someone had been siphoning money for years, and he'd been too busy to notice. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Back off or they get hurt." Max stared at the message, his blood running cold. There was only one "they" it could refer to. Catherine woke to the sound of urgent knocking. Disoriented, she glanced at the clock, 6:13 a.m., before hurrying to the door in her pajamas. Max stood in the hallway, his normally impeccable appearance disheveled, as if he hadn't slept. "Pack your things," he said without preamble. "I'm moving you to a hotel." "What? Why?" Catherine asked, alarmed by his intensity. Max hesitated, then showed her his phone. The threatening text glowed ominously on the screen. "Someone knows you're helping me," he explained. "I don't think it's safe here anymore." Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. "Emma is fine," Max assured her. "But I'd feel better if you both stayed somewhere less obvious. I've booked you a suite at the Peninsula under my company's name." "The Peninsula," Catherine echoed. "That's one of the most expensive hotels in Chicago." "It's also one of the most secure," Max countered. "Please, Catherine, I wouldn't ask if I didn't think it was necessary." 20 minutes later, they were in Max's Bentley, Emma still drowsy in the back seat, clutching her backpack. Catherine sat rigidly beside Max, trying to process this sudden development. "Who would threaten us?" she asked quietly, ensuring Emma couldn't hear. "Someone who doesn't want you looking at those books," Max replied grimly. "Johnny's been calling in sick, but his keycard was used to access the system remotely last night. He's deleting records." "I backed everything up," Catherine assured him. "I've been downloading copies to a secure cloud drive." Max glanced at her with new respect. "Smart thinking." At the Peninsula, they were escorted directly to a luxurious suite with sweeping views of Michigan Avenue. Emma's eyes widened as she took in the opulent surroundings. "We're staying here?" she asked incredulously. "Just for a little while," Catherine said, shooting Max a questioning look. "How long was temporary when it came to five-star accommodations?" "I've arranged for a security detail," Max told Catherine as Emma explored the suite. "They'll be discreet, but they'll ensure no one bothers you." "This seems extreme," Catherine protested. "I take threats seriously," Max replied, "especially when they involve a child." After Max left for the restaurant, promising to call with updates, Catherine settled at the suite's desk with her laptop. Emma curled up on the window seat with a book from the hotel's lending library. "Mom," Emma said after a while, "Mr. Thornton seems scared." Catherine looked up. "What makes you say that?" "His eyes. They look like yours did when we got evicted." Catherine sighed. Her daughter missed nothing. "He's worried someone might be stealing from his restaurant." "Johnny," Emma stated with certainty. "We don't know that for sure." "I do," Emma insisted. "He looks at the computer like he's hiding something. And he never makes eye contact when he talks about numbers." Catherine had noticed the same things, but was surprised Emma had too. "When did you get so observant about people?" "When we started moving around so much," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "I had to figure out which adults would be nice and which ones wouldn't." Catherine's heart constricted. The past year had forced Emma to grow up too quickly. Since losing her teaching position to budget cuts, they'd bounced between sublets and friends' couches before finally ending up in their car. Through it all, Emma had remained her steady, serious self, never complaining, always trying to help. Around noon, Max called. "Johnny didn't show up today. Claire says he texted that he's quitting, effective immediately." "That's suspicious," Catherine noted. "I've filed a police report about the threat," Max continued. "They're taking it seriously because it involves a child, but they need more evidence before they can act." "I think I can provide that," Catherine said. "I've found a pattern. For 3 years, Johnny's been altering receipts and inventory records, small amounts from hundreds of transactions, adding up to nearly $500,000. Max was silent for a moment. "Can you prove it?" "Yes, and I think I know where the money went." That evening, Max arrived at the hotel with Antonio in tow. The chef had insisted on bringing a homemade dinner, refusing to let them subsist on room service. "Hotel food is for tourists," Antonio scoffed as he set up an elaborate spread on the suite's dining table. "You need proper nutrition." While Emma helped Antonio arrange the food, Max and Catherine huddled over her laptop. "There," she said, pointing to a series of transactions. "Johnny's been transferring funds to this offshore account in small increments. But look who the account belongs to." Max's face hardened as he read the name. "Sarah Thornton, my sister." "You have a sister?" Catherine asked, surprised. "We haven't spoken in 14 years, Max said tightly. "Not since our parents died." "I'm sorry," Catherine said softly. "Family estrangements are painful." Max's expression remained closed. "Sarah blamed me for their deaths. Said I worked them too hard in the family business, that the stress caused the heart attack that made my father crash the car." "Was she right?" Catherine asked gently. Max's eyes flashed. "They were workaholics long before I joined the company. I just followed their example." From across the room, Emma called, "Dinner's ready!" Antonio made risotto with truffles. The conversation paused as they gathered around the table. Antonio had transformed hotel dishware into an elegant dining experience, complete with small flower arrangements he'd brought from the restaurant. "To new friends," Antonio toasted, raising his water glass since Emma was present. As they ate, Catherine noticed Max watching Emma with a puzzled expression, as if trying to decipher a complex equation. "She reminds me of myself at that age," he finally said quietly to Catherine. "Serious, observant. Except you had wealth and privilege," Catherine pointed out. "Emma's had instability and uncertainty." Max nodded thoughtfully. "Yet she's still kind. That's Remarkable. After dinner, as Antonio taught Emma how to properly twirl pasta using just a fork, Max pulled Catherine aside. "I want to hire you permanently," he said, "as my financial director. The position comes with a substantial salary and benefits." Catherine stared at him. "You barely know me." "I know enough," Max replied. "You're brilliant with numbers, you have integrity, and you need stability for Emma. I need someone I can trust to overhaul my financial systems." "And what happens when you find Johnny and sort this out?" Catherine asked. "Will you still need me then?" "I'll always need someone who sees what others miss," Max said simply. Later that night, after Antonio had left and Emma had fallen asleep, Catherine stood at the window watching Chicago's lights. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Walk away now. You don't know what you're getting into." Catherine's hand trembled as she showed the message to Max. "They found us," she whispered. The next morning, Max arrived at the hotel with a security specialist, a former military officer named David Reeves. Tall and vigilant, David surveyed the suite with professional detachment while explaining their options. "We can move you again," he suggested, "or increase security here." "What about catching whoever's behind this?" Catherine asked, glancing at Emma, who was doing homework on the couch, seemingly oblivious but undoubtedly absorbing every word. "For that, we need bait," David said bluntly. Max shook his head. "Absolutely not. We're not using Catherine or Emma to lure anyone out." "Not them," David clarified. "The financial records. Let's leak that you've discovered something significant, something worth millions, not just the $500,000 already taken." Catherine's eyes widened. "Create a fake discovery?" "Exactly," David nodded. "Make it irresistible. Whoever's behind this will have to make a move." Max looked uncertain. "It's risky." "Less risky than waiting for them to escalate," David countered. After David left to set up additional security measures, Max paced the suite, agitation evident in every movement. Catherine had never seen him so unsettled. "This is my fault," he said finally. "I should have been more vigilant with my business." "You trusted people," Catherine corrected. "That's not a character flaw." "It is in my family," Max replied bitterly. "My father always said trust was for fools and children." Emma looked up from her homework. "Your father was wrong." Max turned to her, startled. "What?" "Trust is a mathematical necessity," Emma stated with childlike certainty. "If you never trust, you can never verify your calculations. It's like dividing by zero. Impossible." A surprised laugh escaped Max. "Is that so?" Emma nodded seriously. "Mom taught me. Mathematics requires axioms, things you accept as true without proof. Without them, you can't build anything." Max glanced at Catherine, who shrugged with a small smile. "She's right." That afternoon, they implemented David's plan. Catherine created a false financial report suggesting she'd discovered an elaborate tax evasion scheme worth millions, potentially dating back to the restaurant's founding. Max ensured this information was discussed within earshot of several staff members, knowing it would spread quickly. "Now we wait," David said, after confirming the bait was set. They didn't have to wait long. That evening, the hotel's front desk called to inform them that a Ms. Sarah Thornton was asking to see Max. "She's here?" Max looked stunned. "After 14 years, she just shows up?" "That can't be a coincidence," Catherine observed. Max straightened his shoulders. "I'll meet her in the lobby." "Not alone," Catherine insisted, surprising herself with her protectiveness. "She could be involved in the threats." "Stay with Emma," Max countered. "I need to do this myself." 15 minutes later, Max returned to the suite, his face ashen. Behind him walked a woman who bore a striking resemblance to him, the same sharp cheekbones and penetrating gaze, though her hair was darker and her expression far more volatile. "This is Sarah," Max said unnecessarily. "My sister." Sarah barely acknowledged Catherine, her focus entirely on her brother. I didn't know about the threats, she said immediately. Johnny was supposed to be helping me, not endangering people. Helping you steal from me, Max corrected coldly. Sarah's eyes flashed, taking what should have been mine to begin with. Half that inheritance was rightfully mine, but you tied it up in the business. Because you were in rehab, Max shot back. Again, what was I supposed to do? Hand over millions to fund your next overdose? Catherine cleared her throat. Perhaps Emma and I should give you privacy for this. No, both siblings said simultaneously. Sarah turned to Catherine. You found the transfers to my account? Catherine nodded cautiously. Did you also find the original trust documents? Sarah asked. The ones showing Max was supposed to release my inheritance when I maintained sobriety for 5 years? No, Catherine admitted. I was focused on the restaurant's finances. I've been sober for 7 years, Sarah told Max, her voice breaking slightly. 7 years, Max. Johnny was helping me build a case to claim what's legally mine. Max's expression wavered between suspicion and uncertainty. Why the threats then? That wasn't me, Sarah insisted. Johnny must have panicked when you hired her. She gestured toward Catherine. He said he was just helping me get my fair share, but maybe he was taking more than I knew. From across the room, Emma's voice cut through the tension. She's telling the truth about being sober. All 3 adults turned to look at the child, who had been so quiet they'd almost forgotten her presence. How could you possibly know that? Sarah asked, bewildered. Your hands don't shake, Emma explained, and your eyes track smoothly when you move your head. Addicts usually have micro-tremors and jerky eye movements. My teacher, Mr. Peterson, had them when he was drinking. An incredulous laugh escaped Sarah. Who is this kid? Emma Sullivan, the girl replied seriously. I'm 7.5. She's been helping us uncover the financial discrepancies, Max explained, a hint of pride in his voice. Sarah shook her head in disbelief. You're letting a child help with your business? Emma sees patterns others miss, Catherine said, protective instinct flaring. She has a gift. Max's phone rang, interrupting the tense conversation. His expression darkened as he listened. Johnny's been found, he announced after hanging up. In his apartment. He's dead. Sarah sank onto the couch, shock evident on her face. Dead? How? Police think suicide, but they're investigating, Max replied grimly. He left a note confessing to embezzlement, claiming he acted alone. That's convenient, Catherine observed. Too convenient. Johnny was many things, but suicidal wasn't one of them, Sarah agreed, looking genuinely distressed. Someone wanted him silenced. Max's phone buzzed with another text. His face went pale as he read it. The girl is next. Catherine lunged for Emma, gathering her close as Max showed her the message. We need to leave, Max decided. All of us. Now. As they hurriedly packed, Emma tugged on Max's sleeve. I know who sent the threats, she said quietly. Max knelt to her level. Who, Emma? The only person who knew exactly when Catherine was looking at the books, Emma replied. The person who always seems to know everything that happens in the restaurant. Understanding dawned on Max's face. Claire. Emma nodded solemnly. She watches everyone, and she always wears gloves when handling receipts. As the gravity of the situation sank in, Max made a swift decision. We're going to my lake house in Michigan. No one knows about it except family. Sarah raised an eyebrow. The one Dad built? You kept it? It's the one place Claire wouldn't think to look, Max replied. We leave in 10 minutes, all of us, As they hurried from the suite under David's watchful protection, Catherine caught Max's hand. Thank you, she said simply. Max squeezed her hand briefly. I should be thanking you. Both of you. You've shown me what I've been missing all these years. What's that? Catherine asked. Max looked at Emma, then back at Catherine. People worth trusting. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall, covering Chicago in a blanket of white as they slipped away into the night. Four unlikely allies bound by danger and something else, something that felt surprisingly like family. The lake house stood like a sentinel against the Michigan darkness, its silhouette barely visible through the thickening snowfall. Built 30 years ago by Max's father, the sprawling cedar structure had remained empty for nearly a decade. "It needs airing out," Max apologized as he ushered them inside, flipping on lights that illuminated dusty furniture draped in white sheets. Sarah ran her fingers along a mantelpiece. "It looks exactly the same." "I never had reason to change it," Max replied, his voice carefully neutral. Emma wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. "The water must be beautiful in daytime." "It is," Sarah confirmed, standing beside her. "Max and I used to swim every morning, even when it was freezing." They settled into a routine over the next days. Max worked remotely. Catherine analyzed financial records, and Sarah, surprisingly, took charge of cooking and housekeeping. Emma explored, discovering old board games, seashell collections, and faded photographs. "You both look happy here," Emma observed, showing Max a photo of teenage siblings laughing on a dock. Max took the picture, his expression unreadable. "We were once." "What happened?" Emma asked. "Our parents died. I became responsible for everything, the business, the properties, Sarah. I wasn't ready. And you made mistakes," Emma concluded. "Big ones," Max admitted. "I tried to control everything, including Sarah. She needed help, not a dictator." "But you were scared," Emma said. Max looked surprised. "Yes. How did you know?" "Fear makes people rigid," Emma replied simply. "Mom says that's why I calculate everything, because uncertainty scares me." David called with news. Claire Bennett had disappeared, her apartment emptied, her accounts cleared. "She's running," Sarah observed. "That confirms her guilt." "The police found something in Johnny's apartment," Max said. "A flash drive with recorded conversations between Johnny and Claire. She was blackmailing him." "But why?" Sarah asked. "Claire was well paid. What did she need money for?" In one recording, she mentions making him pay for what he did. The detective thinks she had a personal vendetta. "It's not about business," Emma's voice startled them. She stood in the doorway with a photograph, a family portrait of the Thorntons from decades ago. "It's about her." Emma pointed to a young woman standing slightly apart from the family. Sarah gasped. "Andrea, Dad's assistant's daughter. She used to spend summers here when her mother worked for Dad." She looked at Max. "You dated her?" "Briefly, 20 years ago," Max said. "It didn't work out." "Claire Bennett is her sister," Emma stated confidently. 3 pairs of adult eyes turned to her in astonishment. "The picture in your office," Emma explained. "Claire has the same photo on her desk, but folded to hide everyone except the girl. And she has the same birthmark on her neck." Catherine searched online. Andrea Bennett, born 1982. Younger sister, Claire Bennett, born 1984. Emma's right. But why would Claire want revenge for something that happened 20 years ago? Sarah wondered. Max's face had gone pale. "Because Andrea was pregnant when I broke things off. She tried to tell me, but I thought she was making it up to trap me." "What happened to her?" Catherine asked quietly. "She disappeared. Her mother said she'd gone to live with relatives on the West Coast. I never followed up." A heavy silence fell, broken by Emma's small voice. "Claire has your eyes." Morning brought clarity in the form of a blue sky and a blanket of pristine snow. It also brought devastating news. "Andrea Bennett died 18 years ago," Max announced grimly. "Suicide, shortly after giving birth to a daughter." Catherine covered her mouth. "Claire's been raising her sister's child." "My child," Max corrected, his voice rough with emotion. "A daughter I never knew about." Sarah paced the kitchen. So Claire's revenge is about Andrea. She blamed you for her sister's death. 18 years is a long time to nurse a grudge, Catherine observed. Not when it's family, Sarah replied pointedly. Emma spoke up from the kitchen table. Where is she now? Your daughter? According to the investigator, she's a freshman at Northwestern, pre-med. What's her name? Emma persisted. Layla, Max said softly. Layla Bennett. They pieced together the scenario. Claire had worked her way into Max's organization 7 years ago, planning to destroy him from within. But why steal? Catherine wondered. If revenge was the motive, why not just expose you? Money for Layla's education, perhaps, Max suggested. David called with urgent news. Claire's used her credit card. She's in New Harmony, about 40 minutes from here. Why would she come here? Catherine asked, alarmed. I mentioned having a family property in Michigan during a staff retreat years ago, Max realized. She must have investigated. We need to leave, Sarah insisted. No, Max stood. I'm tired of running. This ends now. They settled on a plan. Max would meet Claire at a public restaurant in New Harmony, with David's security team monitoring. Sarah would stay with Emma, while Catherine would accompany Max but remain outside. At the diner, Claire's eyes tracked Max as he approached. Hello, Claire, Max said, sliding into the booth. Or should I call you Andrea's sister? Claire's composure faltered. You finally figured it out. 18 years, to be precise, Max acknowledged. About as long as my daughter has been alive. You didn't deserve to know her, Claire hissed. You abandoned Andrea when she needed you most. I didn't know she was pregnant. Because you didn't want to know. She tried to tell you. You called her a liar and a gold digger. Max didn't deny it. I was young and arrogant. I made a terrible mistake. But destroying my business and threatening innocent people won't bring Andrea back. No, Claire agreed coldly, but it will ensure you lose everything just like she did. Including Layla? Max asked. Does she know what you've been doing? That you've been using her mother's tragedy to justify theft and possibly murder? A flicker of uncertainty crossed Claire's face. Layla knows her mother killed herself because of you. And if she learns her aunt is a criminal, how will that honor Andrea's memory? Claire withdrew a thumb drive. Everything is here. Financial records, recordings, evidence of what you did to Andrea. I've already sent copies to the Chicago Tribune. What do you want, Claire? I want you to suffer knowing your daughter hates you, Claire replied. Unless I tell her my side, Max countered. That I never knew about her, that I would have supported them both. Claire stood abruptly, leaning down to say something final to Max before walking out. Catherine hurried inside to find Max still seated, staring at the thumb drive. What happened? She asked anxiously. She's going to introduce me to my daughter, Max said, looking shell-shocked. Tomorrow, at Northwestern. The Northwestern University campus bustled with pre-holiday activity as Max and Catherine waited near the library. They'd left Emma with Sarah at a Chicago hotel, deciding it was safer than the lake house. What if Layla doesn't come? Max asked nervously. She'll come, Catherine assured him. Claire confirmed. At precisely noon, a young woman approached, Claire walking tensely beside her. The resemblance was unmistakable. Layla had Max's eyes and cheekbones. That's her, Max whispered, his voice tight with emotion. Claire spotted them and pointed. Layla faltered momentarily before squaring her shoulders and continuing forward. Layla, Claire began as they reached Max and Catherine. This is Maxwell Thornton, Layla finished, her voice cool but steady. My biological father, apparently. Yes, Max struggled. Though I only learned about you yesterday. Layla's gaze flicked to Claire, who flushed slightly. So Aunt Claire has been claiming, among other things. They moved to a nearby cafe, finding a quiet corner table. Tension crackled as they ordered coffee, Layla taking hers black, exactly as Max did. Aunt Claire told me everything last night, Layla began without preamble. About my mother, about you, about what she's been doing." "Everything?" Catherine asked, surprised. "The embezzlement, the threats, the fact that she's been planning revenge against you since before I was born." Claire stared into her coffee. "I didn't see another way." "There's always another way," Layla replied sharply. "Mom would have hated this." "You can't know that," Claire protested. "You never knew her." "I read her journals," Layla countered. "All of them. She never blamed him entirely. She blamed herself too." Max leaned forward. "I was wrong, Layla. Inexcusably wrong. What happens to Aunt Claire?" Layla finally asked. Max glanced at Claire. "The embezzlement needs to be addressed. The threats too." "I didn't kill Johnny," Claire said immediately. "I threatened him, blackmailed him, yes, but he killed himself." "You'll need to tell that to the police," Max said. "Will you press charges?" Layla asked. Max considered. "For the embezzlement, yes. But if Claire cooperates fully, I won't pursue the maximum penalties." "Why not?" Catherine asked, surprised. "Because Claire protected and raised my daughter when I didn't. I owe her for that." Claire's composure cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I did it for Andrea. Everything was for her." "I know," Max said gently. "But vengeance doesn't honor her memory. Layla does." As they prepared to leave, Layla handed Max a small envelope. "Photos of me growing up, in case you want them." Max took the envelope with trembling hands. "I'd like to know you, Layla, if you're willing." "I'm not sure yet," Layla admitted, "but I'm willing to try." Back at the hotel, they found Emma teaching Sarah chess. The two had developed an unexpected bond. "How did it go?" Sarah asked. "I have a niece," she realized aloud. "A teenage niece." "You'll like her," Max assured his sister. "She's smart, direct, takes no nonsense." "Sounds like someone else I know," Sarah said, glancing at Emma, who was studying the chessboard with intense concentration. That night, as Emma slept, Catherine found Max on the balcony, staring at the Chicago skyline. "What happens now?" she asked. "Claire will face consequences. I'll try to build a relationship with Layla." Max turned to her. "And then there's you and Emma. What about us? Are you still interested in being my financial director?" "The offer stands." Catherine considered. "Emma and I need stability, a home, school." "I can help with that," Max offered. "No strings attached." Catherine studied his face, noting how it had softened. "What changed you, Max?" Max's gaze shifted to Emma's room. A 7-year-old asked if she could wash dishes for leftovers, and showed more dignity and courage than most adults I know. Spring came to Chicago, melting winter's last stubborn remnants. 6 months had passed since the confrontation with Claire, months of rebuilding and renewal. In the courtroom, Max sat between Catherine and Sarah as the judge delivered Claire's sentence, 8 years, with possibility of parole after 4, plus full restitution. Claire accepted with composure, nodding once to Max before being led away. "Are you okay?" Catherine asked as they left the courthouse. "I'm relieved it's over," Max admitted. Layla needed closure too. Layla had returned to Northwestern, choosing to continue her education while processing the revelations about her family. She and Max were building a careful relationship, weekly lunches, occasional texts, a gradual accumulation of shared experiences. Sarah had remained in Chicago, moving into a condo purchased with her portion of the family inheritance, which Max had finally released. She was working with a non-profit supporting addiction recovery, and Emma was flourishing. Enrolled in a school for gifted children, she was accelerating through mathematics and sciences while making friends her own age for the first time. The serious child was still there, but alongside her had emerged a girl who laughed more easily, who sometimes forgot to calculate every risk. "I'm picking Emma up early today," Catherine reminded Max. "Doctor's appointment at 3. "Just a checkup?" Max asked, his brow furrowing with concern. Annual physical, Catherine assured him. Nothing to worry about. Max nodded, visibly relieved. I'll see you both for dinner. Antonio's making that pasta Emma loves. We wouldn't miss it, Catherine promised. They had settled into a comfortable routine. Catherine worked as financial director for Max's restaurant group. She and Emma had moved into a lovely apartment in a family-friendly neighborhood, paid for with Catherine's generous salary. Max remained in his downtown penthouse, but spent most evenings with them either at their apartment or at Thornton's, where Emma had become something of a mascot among the staff. Antonio doted on her, teaching her to make pasta by hand. At the doctor's office, Emma sat still and cooperative through the examination, answering questions with her typical precision. She's in excellent health, Dr. Morris assured Catherine. She's grown 2 inches since her last visit. Cognitively, she's still testing well above her age group. Any concerns about her social development? Catherine asked quietly. Dr. Morris smiled. From what you've described, Emma is adjusting remarkably well to the changes in your lives. Children are resilient, especially when they feel secure. Later, at Thornton's, Emma happily donned the child-sized chef's jacket Antonio had given her for Christmas and climbed onto her special stool at the prep table. Catherine found Max on the phone in his office, his expression serious. That was Layla, he explained after hanging up. She's been offered a summer research position at Mayo Clinic. It's a tremendous opportunity, but it means she won't be in Chicago this summer, Catherine finished, understanding his disappointment. Max nodded. Just when we were starting to connect. She'll be back, Catherine assured him, and there's always video calls. I know, I've missed so much already. Catherine placed a hand on his. You can't make up for 18 years in a few months, Max. Max turned his hand to clasp hers. When did you get so wise? Around the time I started raising a child genius, Catherine replied with a smile. Their relationship had evolved gradually from professional to personal, neither rushing into definitions or declarations. They were both cautious by nature, both protective of Emma's stability above all else. But something had shifted between them in recent weeks, lingering glances, hands that found excuses to touch, conversations that stretched late into the night. I've been thinking, Max said carefully, about the future. Catherine raised an eyebrow. That's rather vague. The lake house, Max clarified. I'm having it renovated, updated. It could be a place for weekends, holidays. For you and Layla, Catherine asked. For all of us, Max replied, meeting her eyes directly. You, Emma, Sarah, Layla, a place where we could all be together. Catherine's heart quickened. That sounds like a family, Max. It does, doesn't it? Max agreed, smiling. Strange how that happened. From the kitchen, they heard Emma's delighted laugh as Antonio demonstrated some culinary technique. Emma considers you family already, Catherine told him softly. She drew a picture today. You, me, her and Sarah. Our family, she called it. Max's expression softened. And what about you, Catherine? What do you consider us? Catherine leaned forward and kissed him lightly, their first. I'm still calculating, she murmured, but the equation is looking promising. Summer arrived in a blaze of heat and possibility. The lake house renovation was complete, the musty quality replaced by fresh air and light, while still honoring the structure's history. Emma claimed the small bedroom with the window seat overlooking the lake, arranging her books and the telescope Sarah had given her for her 8th birthday. She's settling in quickly, Max observed. Emma adapts when she feels secure, Catherine explained, and she feels secure with you. From the window, they could see Sarah on the dock, setting up fishing rods. The sound of tires on gravel announced another arrival. Layla, her research position having ended early, allowing her 2 weeks with them before fall semester. Max hurried to greet her, Catherine allowing father and daughter a moment alone. Through the window, she watched their slightly awkward hug, the tentative smiles. When they came inside, Layla was looking around with undisguised curiosity. "So this is the famous lake house." "It's been in the family for decades," Max told her. "Your grandfather built it." "My grandfather," Layla repeated, testing the concept. "I never thought I'd have grandparents, even retrospectively." Emma appeared at the top of the stairs. "Hello, I'm Emma Sullivan. I'm 8 now." Layla smiled up at her. "Hello, Emma. I'm Layla. I'm 18. "I know," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "You're studying pre-med at Northwestern. Your mother was Andrea Bennett. You have Max's eyes, but your smile is different." The day unfolded in a series of small moments. Sarah teaching Emma to fish, Max showing Layla old family photos, Catherine preparing lunch. By evening, they had settled into a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. After dinner, as they watched fireflies emerge over the lake, Layla turned to Max. "I found some of Mum's medical records. She had depression before she met you, clinical depression that ran in her family. Aunt Claire never mentioned that." Max frowned. "I didn't know either." "That's the thing about depression," Layla said softly. "People get good at hiding it. I wanted you to know because I think Aunt Claire simplified the story, made you the villain, because it was easier than accepting the complexity of mental illness." "That doesn't excuse my behavior," Max insisted. "No," Layla agreed, "but it means you weren't solely responsible for what happened to her." The next morning brought a surprise visitor. Antonio arrived in his old station wagon, loaded with cooking supplies and Italian delicacies. "You cannot have proper vacation without proper food," he declared, sweeping into the kitchen. "I close restaurant for 2 days." With Antonio's arrival, the weekend took on a festive atmosphere. He taught Emma to make gnocchi, regaled Layla with stories of Italy, and even coaxed Sarah into helping prepare a feast. On their final evening together, they gathered around a bonfire on the beach. As they toasted marshmallows and shared stories, Catherine observed the connections forming between these once separate lives. "I was thinking about that first night," Max said beside her, "when Emma walked into Thornton's and asked to wash dishes for leftovers." "Our lives changed that night," Catherine acknowledged. "For the better," Max added. "Though I didn't know it then." Across the fire, Emma was explaining prime numbers to Antonio, who listened with exaggerated confusion that made her laugh. "She still sees patterns everywhere," Catherine noted fondly. "But now she sees beauty in them too, not just problems to solve." "Like mother, like daughter," Max said, taking her hand. From the shoreline, Layla called out excitedly, pointing upward. They all looked up to see meteors streaking across the sky. "Perseid meteor shower," Emma announced. "It peaks in mid-August every year." They watched in silence as the celestial display continued, each lost in their own thoughts yet connected in the moment. Catherine found herself making a wish for this newfound family to continue finding their way together. As if reading her thoughts, Max squeezed her hand. "Not bad for a temporary accounting job," he whispered. Catherine smiled. "I'm still calculating the returns." "And," Max prompted, "the investment was sound," she replied. "The dividends exceed all projections." 1 year later, Thornton celebrated its 10th anniversary. The restaurant had been transformed, not just physically with its renovated dining room and expanded kitchen, but fundamentally in its operations and spirit. Max stood at the entrance with Catherine as financial director, Antonio as executive chef, and Sarah as the newly appointed head of the Thornton Foundation, created to support families affected by addiction and mental health challenges. Emma, now 9, circulated through the crowd with practiced ease, her natural seriousness balanced by growing confidence. In her dark blue dress with mathematical equations subtly embroidered along the hem, a gift from Sarah, she looked like a miniature businesswoman. "Mister," Reynolds' table is ready, she informed the hostess with professional gravity, and Mrs. Abernathy would like to speak with Antonio about the risotto. She says it's transcendent. Layla arrived fashionably late, her studies keeping her busy. She had switched her major to psychiatry, inspired by her mother's story and her growing interest in mental health. "Sorry I'm late," she apologized, kissing Max's cheek. "Lab ran over." "You're here now," Max replied, the simple statement carrying the weight of years of absence. At precisely 8 p.m., Max clinked his glass for attention. "10 years ago, I opened Thornton's with a singular vision," he began. "Excellence at any cost, perfection above all." He paused. "I was wrong." A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. "A business is not measured solely by its profit margins or its Michelin stars," Max continued. "It's measured by the lives it touches, the community it builds, the values it upholds." He gestured toward Catherine. "I learned this lesson from an extraordinary woman who walked into my restaurant with her equally extraordinary daughter, asking not for handouts, but for the dignity of work. Today, Thornton's is more than a restaurant. It's the cornerstone of a foundation that has already helped dozens of families facing addiction and mental health challenges." Catherine stepped forward. "The Thornton Group is expanding. We're launching Beginnings, a chain of community cafes that will employ individuals rebuilding their lives after hardship." The announcement was met with enthusiastic applause. As glasses were raised in toast, Max found Emma at his elbow. "You didn't tell them the best part," she whispered. Max smiled. "Would you like to do the honors?" Emma nodded before addressing the crowd with surprising poise. "Each Beginnings cafe will have a special menu section called Emma's Exchange, where people can wash dishes or help clean in exchange for a meal if they can't afford to pay." She paused, because sometimes people just need a chance, not charity. The room erupted in applause again, several guests wiping away tears at the simple wisdom. Later, on the restaurant's small balcony, Max found a quiet moment with Catherine. "Emma stole the show," he observed proudly. "She's always had a gift for cutting to the heart of things," Catherine agreed. Max reached into his pocket. "I have something for you. It's not quite traditional, but then neither are we." He handed Catherine a small box containing not a ring, but a key. "The lake house," Catherine realized. Max nodded. "I've signed it over to all of us. You, me, Emma, Sarah, and Layla. Equal shares. No one person owns it. We all do. Together." Catherine blinked back unexpected tears. "That's perfect, Max." "There's more," Max continued. "I've purchased the property next door. I thought we might build something new there, something that's just ours, yours, mine, and Emma's." "Emma asked me yesterday if you were going to be her dad," Catherine said softly. "She said you already act like one, so the paperwork should match." Max's breath caught. "What did you tell her?" "That it was up to you, but that I thought you might like that very much." Inside, Emma watched them through the glass doors, smiling. She'd calculated this outcome long ago, seeing the pattern developing before they recognized it themselves. Antonio placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You look happy, little one." "I am," Emma confirmed. "The variables have all found their proper places in the equation." Antonio chuckled. "In Italian, we say it more simply. We call it family." Emma considered this, then nodded approvingly. "That works too." 2 years ago, Emma had pushed open a heavy glass door and asked a simple question. "Can I wash your dishes in exchange for the food people don't eat?" She had been hungry, desperate, seeking merely survival. What she had found instead was something far more valuable. A future, a family, a place where patterns made sense, not just in mathematics, but in human connections. As Max raised his glass in a final toast, his gaze moving fondly from Catherine to Emma to Sarah to Layla, Emma felt the last piece of her internal puzzle slide into place. "To new beginnings," Max proclaimed. "And to the little dishwasher who started it all," Catherine added softly, her eyes finding Emma's across the room. Emma smiled back, no longer the hungry child seeking leftovers, but a girl secure in the knowledge that some questions lead to answers far better than anyone could calculate. Even a math prodigy